together. Everything will be fine. You got the key of your success. We move forward hand in hand. Yeah, 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 let's run together. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Live and Ready for You. And this is slightly new because we're pre-recording this. Michel and I are a bit busy this week, but we didn't want to let you down. So we're going to be on Friday and I'm going to be sitting with the video. So yeah, hi, Michel. This is very early in the morning. How are
Indeed
you?
it is. Hello, Helen.
Thank you so much for making the time. And particularly on this topic, we are talking about why won't people listen to me? Why can't I get my point across at work? And yeah, so it's something that my clients complain about. And we were chatting about it off screen. So it felt like something worth talking about and sharing, and some tips basically on how to do it. So yeah, I think let me set the context. So what I often hear from my clients or in the trainings that we give is that people don't feel like others are listening to them, or they don't get the chance to, they might have an idea, they might have thought about it, and then they come to a meeting, they want to present their idea, and as they start talking, people's body language starts to shift, and they can tell that they've lost people. And so then they're frustrated and they don't feel heard and they don't feel listened to. And there's that point of, oh, what's the point? Do you hear that with your clients?
Yes, I do. And I mainly see it. I observe it a lot. Yeah, we do a lot of, at We Are Ready For You, we do a lot of trainings, about assertiveness, public speaking, pitching, and it's about communication, right? And it doesn't matter if you are a leader, a manager, an accountant, or a salesperson, or involved in marketing and communications. This is one of the biggest problems in the world, I think, that people don't communicate very well.
Now, interesting, because that's what people would say is, help me communicate better. Help me say it better. Help me find the more engaging way of saying it. But, is that actually the answer? And I would argue not.
Could be. It's part of the answer, probably. But, I would like to ask you a question, Helen. For you, who is the most charismatic person? The one who shows up and gives you the feeling that he or she is very important, or the person that makes you feel very important?
Ooh. Okay, I'm not sure I'd answer it correctly, because I know where you're going with this one. Can I just tell you what I have experienced as the most charismatic person? Yes, and it's very rare, all right, that I come across somebody like this. I was working at the communication agency, and there was one man who was in his probably late 50s, early 60s. He was the most charismatic man I've ever met, because he actually listened to what people were saying. So there was a debate going on around the table, and people were pulling it in different directions. And what he actually did was he kept asking questions. He said something really profound, which is, okay, I hear what you're saying. Let's follow that thinking through. And he literally would, even though he didn't agree with the idea, he literally explored the idea, and he said, okay, let's follow that thinking through to the end. I have never seen any. And so the person actually felt important, because it was their idea, that questions were being asked, they were visualizing it, and actually at the end, the outcome of that idea was, it's not going to work because of X, Y, and Z, but it was fully explored. That for me was the most charismatic person.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I think that so not being heard relates to charisma, right? Charismatic people are being heard.
Yes.
And if you have no charisma at all, the chance to be heard is smaller, right? And so charisma is about having this open mindset, I believe. First, it's not so much about the words, or if you ask open or closed questions and these kind of things. It's about the genuine open mindset. And if you do what this man did, then people will feel respected and heard, and they will also listen, and they will become curious and feel connected, and feel there is something more happening than just two people speaking to each other. There is an emotional connection as well.
Yeah.
That relates to respect, that relates to there are two emotions that drive people. The one emotion is love, of course, everything that relates to love. For example, I like my job, I like my colleagues, I love the products I sell, I like the building, whatever, I like my car. I drive every day to go to work. That is very important. That gives us energy, and that makes us feel good. That gives us self-confidence and even self-esteem, And then there is fear. Fear takes all our energy away, and often fears are based on illusions and things that will never happen. And then so when people are not listening themselves, because they fear that when they listen, they cannot express their opinions, their needs, and they will not be heard, they actually trigger what they fear. So it's important to to be open-minded, and just to accept that other people may have different opinions, and that they might even be good at some point. It's open mindset. I can learn something, and to connect to this love feeling instead of the fear. Because when we're in fear, we close down, we get a closed mindset, and we just want to talk, to express something which is important. We are making statements rather than asking open questions. Whereas when it's like the people you love, you're genuinely offering them your listening.
Yeah.
Right? We do.
Right. We did the workshop recently, and I was saying about when you're in love with someone, when you go on a first date, then you're actually
true.
incredibly attuned, because you're trying to look for the connection, you're trying to look for the similarities. But when we come into a work context and we're trying to sell something, and we know that we've got people who don't really like us, we've got adversaries, I can't say that word, then we're actually, as you say, on fear alert and looking for things that why they're going to criticize us, or we listen with the opposite in mind, with, as you say, with the fear. So what are they saying? Yeah, that's a good reason why it's not going to work, as opposed to being in love. Yeah, that's a really good point. Tell me, Michel, let me just recap so far. So what people are always wanting is to convince and win an argument, to sell an idea and it be accepted. And they dread or get really frustrated when people shut them down, so they get talked at, and so then all these people are talking at each other. And what we're suggesting, if you really want to be convincing, if you really want to get your ideas heard, step one is actually start listening, deeply listening. Can you, and the other thing you said was it is so difficult, and it is a practice, which is to start dropping your judgments, to catch your judgments in your head going, oh, that's a bloody idiot, or he doesn't know what he's talking about, is to catch those judgments and just put them down, because they're not helping you listen. All right, so it's deep to get very curious about what the other people are saying. And you told me that you, as your sales training, you had a way of doing it, a way of teaching it to other salespeople. Can you just talk us through that?
Yeah, indeed, because it's not always natural to listen. Certainly, if you're scared that your client would not understand your advantages, your unique selling propositions, your price, whatever, all the benefits you want to sell. And excuse me.
No worries.
And so it's not natural, because most of the times, we listen to reply, and we don't listen to understand, because we are in fear of something. So what we do a few games, and so I play a game with them, and they have to find my secret. The story, to make a long story short, the game is, we are on a trade fair somewhere, in Brussels or in Stuttgart or whatever. There are big fairs around the world, and I play the client, and they play the sales company, the supplier, and we meet somewhere by chance in a corridor in a corridor on a trade fair. But I have a secret. And I ask them to find my secret. So it's the situation is just, how should I say, we jump into each other by chance, and then follows a little conversation. And so in the beginning, we do it 2 times. The first time they play the game, they never find my secret, because they keep making a lot of statements, and when they ask questions, they're just going through their own checklist of things they could ask, and then they ask them. And either it takes ages before they find the secret, or they never find it. And then, of course, they understand that they didn't really listen very well, or they didn't use the listening skills we teach in our trainings. And then I give them a little trick. I tell them, look, you're only entitled and allowed to ask questions about what I say. So if I speak about my shoes, ask questions about my shoes, right? That's it. So, and then we do it again, and we do the exercise again from the very beginning. And I say, oh, hello, I'm so super happy to see you again today, right? And then they get it, and then they ask me, okay, how come that you're so happy today that we met? Okay, yeah, I want to talk about something which is very important. Tell me what's important about what you wanted to say. And then, we get into a flow that is very fast, and it only takes a few minutes before they get my secret. And then they are able to help me with my problem as a client. And then I will double their volume with them, because they helped me, right? So it was just a stupid little conversation in a corridor of a trade fair that led to twice as much volume with that client.
Wow.
Whereas if you're just saying stupid things or not asking questions about what the client says, then you never find it. You never touch the real thing about to talk about.
Oh, that is so good. And you know what I love about that is it's I don't know, I can't remember what the psychological term is, but for example, sorry, my brain was thinking about that conversation and then putting it into a business context of you trying to sell an idea, and you've got people around the table going, yeah, but that's not going to work because. And what we don't like doing is we don't like hearing all the negatives about why our work isn't going to, why our project isn't going to work. And it's a bit like it's very difficult to do a Google, for example, like Michel Bienert is useless. I mean, I don't know if you've ever Googled that, or no. Michel.
Michel is great.
All right. I mean, I did it the other day thinking, okay, and it's a really difficult thing to force yourself to actually search for bad news about yourself. And it's the same for actually, it's really difficult to ask questions if somebody is going against what you're suggesting in a meeting. And in fact, that's exactly what you're suggesting. And that to find people's secret. So, and I love this idea of finding a secret, because make it more of a game. Oh, wow. I think someone's against my idea. What's their secret? So tell me more about why you don't like my idea. Yeah. So it's really to shift into listening, but also asking great questions that help you better understand what it is that's blocking them. exactly as you do in a sales conversation. I love it.
You're saying asking great questions. Actually, great questions are very simple and often stupid. Right? You know, when we work together, when we coach people, or when we on a training together, we often ask very stupid questions, but we get, of course, great answers.
That's true.
Simple
And
questions like you're speaking about, I don't know, trust. What does trust mean to you, really, or some things like that? You know, very simple questions. Or what do you?
what have I put here? Yeah, so it's true. And I think if pre-coaching Helen, I'd be really irritated to hear someone say, ask great questions, because, you know, what's a great question? And but it's actually, there's two tricks to asking a question that's useful, which is ask a question you genuinely don't know the answer to, as opposed to asking a question which you already have a preconceived idea of what they're going to say. Like, do you really think that's a good idea? So, and the other trick I have is actually stop asking why questions and put what at the front. And that's really, it's a habit, and it's quite hard to do, but once you've got the hang of it, you know, what's important about that for you?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? And in fact, as a coach, what they say is it doesn't even matter what question you ask. It really doesn't even matter, because if the other person gets something from it and starts talking, it just takes you further down the line of them getting clarity in their own mind and helping to express themselves. So it's really just about asking a question and then shut up and listen.
Exactly. And to come back to charisma, you said, you know, a charismatic person is a person who makes you feel important. And what they do is they leave their own mind, their own world of ideas, assumptions, and things, and they go into the mind of the other person and just start asking questions there, rather than, you know, staying in your own little world. That's an open mindset, when you go into the mind of the others. And what I wanted to also to say about active listening is that why do people not listen actively? Because we only have one brain here in the middle, right? Or I have only one. Maybe you have two. Because women can multitask, so that they must have various brains. But I have only one. And so in the beginning, look, if this is the brain, this circle here, you know, it looks like a reversed heart, actually. That's beautiful. But we have only that one brain. And in the beginning, when we listen, we use 100% of the capacity of our brain to listen. And then we start thinking, right? We start understanding things. We're making links between pieces of information, and we start producing answers. And the more we do that, the more we reduce the capacity to listen. And at some point, the thinking takes it over. And, you know, has it ever happened to you that you are in a conversation with someone and you start thinking about things, and then you realize at some point that you haven't been listening for 30 seconds, or that you really didn't hear the last sentences of that person?
Oh,
right? It happens. It's normal, because we start thinking, and the capacity of our brain to really listen is reduced, because we only have that one brain. And so what I always say when we speak about active listening, there is only one thing you are allowed to think about when you're really listening. Only one thing. And that is that question you want to ask to understand better. Then you are really listening to understand, because the only thing you think about is, okay, what have I not understood yet? And then you ask that question, for example.
I would double click on that. And, well, not double click. I would say, from a coaching point of view, the goal would be not even to ask the next question, because that is a distraction, and not worry about the next question. It would be to listen for the facts and see if you can even replay what they just said.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. I agree with that. But if there is something you have to you're allowed to think about at some point, you know, if the conversation is stuck or nothing is happening, then think about what you haven't understood. But indeed, most of the times, if you just listen or repeat a few words, then people keep talking. And yeah.
Right. I'm feeling a need to recap. And when you said, you know, you get distracted, I was thinking, oh yeah, because I was just thinking I need to recap this. So and I was slightly stressed the fact that I probably won't be able to remember everything. So let's start from the top and help me if I'm missing anything. So to increase your likelihood that people listen to you and your ideas, start listening very deeply to other people. There's a trick that you can use, which is find the secret. So when someone starts saying, I think it's not a very good idea. Oh, interesting. Okay. What is it specifically that isn't interesting? And ask again, listen to what they have to say, and then ask again. And you summarize, okay, so you don't like this and you don't like that. What else don't you like about the idea? Or what else worries you about the idea? Become aware of your, I would call it background conversation. I think you called it the little voice in your head, or I'm not sure what you called it, but that highly judgmental, in my case, bitch, in my head, that's judging, that's criticizing, that's already thinking about the next argument, or I'm ready to jump on what they're saying. Okay. The more that you can put him or her that's guiding you, calm that person down in your head, and the more you can be present to what the person's actually saying. What else do I need to say, Michel?
Yes, I like what you say, because this is really being able to make the difference between an opinion, a feeling, and facts. Right? When we have this little voice spinning around and telling stories, it's all judgments and opinions. And it's okay to have opinions. We all have opinions. That is normal. But in the meantime, we have to acknowledge that it's only an opinion, and there are many opinions around, and they are all okay. We all have this right to have this opinion. But the only thing we can agree upon are the facts. So, and then you ask that what question you suggested. What is it you would like to, for example, blah, blah. The what question brings us back to the facts, to tangible things, to proofs, to the real world, actually.
Yeah. And so that listening and then asking questions to better understand their position. And what's driving, so the thinking that's, you've talked about the two main emotions of love and fear. And there's some research that I wanted to share. So I'll put a link into the notes afterwards. But a Great Place to Work did some research, and they identified that everybody at work wants three things. So from the cleaner to the CEO, everyone wants to be respected. Everybody wants fairness and are frustrated when there isn't any. And everybody wants to be heard. Now, interestingly, if everybody wants that, and yet everyone's complaining about it, it means that a lot of us aren't actually doing it most of the time. Even though we go to work with the best intentions, it means that we aren't respecting. I'm not respecting people. I'm not being fair. I'm not hearing people. And I think that this shift from being more convincing to doing a lot more listening is the answer, is one of the key things that would increase people's respect and feeling respected by you, feeling that you are fair with them, and feeling that you really are hearing them just by listening. And yeah, so I think that my key message here is the more that you can listen, the more you play back what you think you heard, the more that you align, saying, is that actually what you're saying? Did I get you? The more people feel safe with you. And the more safe they feel with you is what you've said, which is you increase their sense of love and willingness to listen to you. And we get back to that point of when you go on a first date or the first few dates, you're hanging on the other person's words because you actually are looking for that connection and what we agree with. So I think in summary, that's what I would say is to increase your ability to be convincing.
Mm-hmm. A way to improve that is to reflect sometimes about a difficult conversation we have had, and to think about that conversation, and then to how should I say that? To describe how many statements have I made, how many closed questions have I asked, and how many open questions have I asked during that conversation. Just try to put a percentage on that. Maybe it's 70% statements, 20% closed questions, and only 10% open questions. And being aware of that helps us improve, because most people are just not aware of the fact that they are just shooting statements and opinions all the time, right?
Yeah.
Well, rather than asking questions. And it's like, this on the dashboard of your car, you know how fast you drive. When you know how fast you drive, you can slow down or speed up, right? And here it's the same, being aware of how do I express myself. Do I do it in terms of statements and opinions, or more with questions and open questions? That shows if your mindset during the conversation was open or closed. And
that's interesting.
I was taught this by my coach, a very great coach called Mario Rastelli. He uses that exercise for people to improve the way they communicate. And so it helps you to become the listener rather than the one who is just, making judgments and telling.
Well, I think that's it. I think we've covered the topics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some show notes together. I'm going to summarize the key points of this. And so that's a wrap. So let us just quickly, Michel, maybe I'll hand it over to you to just give a little intro to who the hell are We Are Ready For You?
Oh, that's a very good question. I love that question. We are an international network of trainers and coaches, and we help organizations under stress to adopt fresh thinking so they can grow. That's the main idea. We also pretend, that's a bit arrogant to say that, but we pretend to offer a holistic approach, because we believe that happiness at work, performance at work, is not only about skills and competences. It's a bit more complex than that, there are feelings involved, there is energy involved, there is mental and physical health involved, there is even spirituality involved, culture, and a lot of other things. And at We Are Ready For You, we have this intercultural, multicultural, multidisciplinary team of people understanding all these questions. And so we have experts for many different things that can help people being happy at work and perform better. It's like top athletes, they have all these services, they get them, and that's why they perform so well. But workers, people working for organizations, they have to run a marathon at sprint speed, and they don't get any of this. So what we do is we offer a whole set of services to organizations so that their people can perform at the highest level, but while being happy, of course, because if people are not happy at work, they will not perform very long. It's they get burnouts and will be on sick leave, or just be the, how do we call them, the quiet
quitters.
Quiet quitters. They just do the minimum, and for the rest, they protect themselves. So this is what we do at We Are Ready For You.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And I'm very proud to be part of that team, I have to say.
Me too.
So that's a wrap. We will be back in a month's time. I'm going to be joined by our colleague, Anne Randerson, and we're going to be talking about, so I'm just putting it on screen. So we're back on Friday, the 25th of November, and Anne is going to be talking about how to manage transitions in life. So I'm really curious. We're always going through transitions. So it's really, what can we do to, dare I say, thrive in transitions? So that's it. Thanks very much, Michel. I really appreciate you joining me this early in the morning. I can see that I'm still, my face is still starting.
Just to stay back.
Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you very much, Helen. Bye-bye.